let's run down our predictions. I feel like there's many matches I know what's going to happen, but I would love to be proven wrong. Let's also talk about something awesome on this card. 3 women's matches, 3 men's matches.
Yeah. Although my only criticism is I'm not a big fan of. It seems like nowadays, and they did it as well with the Backlash, or maybe even like the King and Queen of the Ring, is that every match is a championship match except for one.
Okay.
I don't know. I just feel like there's too. In my opinion, I don't think there should be more championship matches than non-championship matches. I feel like that's. I don't know. Maybe it's a sign that there's too many titles. I don't know, but there's 5 title matches and one, I guess you could say, gimmick match. Just
Well,
give me
maybe they'll add
a
something
good old fashioned one-on-one grudge match every now and then.
else. True. I mean, I don't know. I'm not upset or disappointed. I think they're going to add something just to. I mean, because all this is like all killer, no filler. Looking at this here, so let's talk about this. Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. Who do you think is winning?
This is tough because I'm gonna tell you who's gonna win the match.
Okay.
It's gonna be Ethan Page.
Really?
However, by disqualification.
Oh,
Because
who's getting? Wait, Trick's gonna DQ himself?
Trick's gonna DQ himself at some point. Maybe Ethan Page goes for some kind of foreign object, and ref doesn't see it. Trick grabs it, and then he strikes Ethan Page with it. I just don't see Ethan Page coming in and just being 0-1 right off the bat. I feel like it gives him an out to be 1-0 against a champion. He wins a couple matches between now and Heat Wave, and then he ends up going to Heat Wave in front of his home province. It's not his hometown, but home province. Is that what it is?
Sure.
I try to be more specific than home country. And I feel like that's where we're going to see the big match. That's
Ontario.
Really...
His home province is Ontario.
Yeah, so he's from Ontario. I think he's from Hamilton, Ontario. That's what I want to say.
Ontario's big. That's like saying like in front of Bailey's home state, and she's in Ontario, California, but she's from
That's
San
right.
Jose.
That's right.
Like,
but are you wrong about it? No.
I mean, I don't think Bailey has a personal attachment to Southern California as like, but I'm from here. It's like you're from San Jose.
But those Canadians. I mean, they're excited for the fellow Canadians.
Sure.
Right. So now you're narrowing it down to Ontario, they're gonna get even more excited.
Americans aren't that way. We're like, oh well, it's an American. We should cheer them.
That's why I will still say Brett screwed Brett.
Okay. So interesting. I think Trick wins clean in this title defense. But what about Fraxium versus the OC, Gallows and Anderson, for the NXT Tag Team Championships?
So I don't think they're going to do 2 minute title changes on this one.
Yeah.
I do think that there will be another title change happening. With that said, I do think Fraxium's going to win this one, especially now that you have this AJ Styles. I know he's been a heel for a little bit, but now he's obviously flipped the switch, and now you're going to have AJ and the OC do a lot more on SmackDown on a regular basis. And I don't think, with that said, I don't think they need the NXT titles for that.
Okay, that's valid. I mean, I think this would be a prime one to switch, but I don't know who wins it off the OC. So I think Fraxium is a good pick. What about Obafemi versus Wesley versus Joe Coffey for that North American Championship?
As I mentioned, I do think Wesley is way too good for the North American Championship. And, Mark Coffey, I think they're just great hands. I don't think they really have much to do with those guys. With that said, I think Obafemi is going to retain and still be North American champion.
What about the NXT Underground match between Shayna Baszler and Lola Vice?
1000%. Just because she is on such a high trajectory, we're going to see Lola Vice. I just don't see like her losing anytime soon. I think by the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if she's NXT Women's Champion, or at least maybe by Stand and Deliver.
What about and I think I think Lola is winning that as well. What about Sol Ruka versus Lash Legend versus Fallon Henley versus Jada Parker versus Mi Chim versus Kalani Jordan to become the inaugural NXT Women's North American Champion?
There's one person that stands out to me the most, and it's not Michin. Like I said, everyone else has. Again, I don't mean any disrespect with this. I just feel like with somebody like Fallon Henley and her trying to solidify her heel run, and then you have everyone else that there really is no question where they're at. I feel like Fallon Henley needs this championship to really kind of get this heel run on board. You have Jada that just is, oh my god, I will go on and on about Jada Parker. I just don't think she doesn't need it. She's got that mic to win her over. You have Sol Ruka that just has maybe the best finisher in NXT. She don't need it because she's gonna get a pop anytime she hits that finish. Chin, I don't see her taking the North American Championship back to SmackDown or whatever brand she's on now. I just feel like Fallon Henley, she needs it a lot more than everyone else because if she doesn't have it or if she doesn't win this match, then there's really nowhere for her to go.
Wow. That's an interesting theory. I mean, I thought Sol Ruka up until tonight. Until Sol Ruka got the pin tonight. Maybe they surprised us. Maybe it's Lash Legend.
I do think that we're gonna see some really, really cool things. Like some things we maybe even never even seen before in a ladder match this upcoming Sunday.
Okay.
Which we'll be covering right here on Wrestling Inc., by the way.
Lash would be a very interesting pick.
I do think Lash Legend would be my second pick, just because I'd want to see that kind of element of her having a championship and Trick having a championship. So I think that'd be fun to see on TV.
Yeah. So what about Roxanne Perez versus Jordynne Grace for the NXT Women's Championship?
This one is going to be my title change. I think we're going to see Jordynne Grace become the new NXT Women's Champion and take it to TNA. And Roxanne Perez wins it back on the Slammiversary pay-per-view that's going to be up in July.
Okay, so if that happens, you don't think they're paying her six figures for this run?
She's not getting 30 grand a per appearance.
She's flying to Vegas. That's like a 5-hour flight.
They tape out of Vegas anyways.
Commercial. She has to fly to Vegas.
I'll give her the private jet. Maybe I don't even know if that I'm sure it's still being used. I just can't. I don't believe she's getting 100 grand or even more than that. Like, why would you pay somebody that much when you can get them for less? You get somebody if they didn't offer her 50 grand, she'd be like, no, I'll pass.
NXT got its biggest rating in a while last week. It almost beat Dynamite last week.
Mm-hmm.
Against sports, NXT got a huge rating last week.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean you're going to pay Roxanne Perez 100 grand.
Not Roxanne, Jordynne Grace.
That doesn't mean they're not going to pay Jordynne Grace 100 grand for like 3 or 4 appearances.
I don't know.
The only way they pay her, because in addition, she's also getting a TNA paycheck as well, is that they sign her to a contract already that starts after her TNA contract expires. Because by all means, I think we can all sit here and say safely that there is no way that Jordynne Grace is not going to be within the WWE within a year after the TNA contract expires.
What does a TNA contract look like? I mean, I'm sure they get a decent wage, but I think the Christmas bonus is like a Subway card that's got like it just needs one stamp more for a free 6-inch sub, and that's your Christmas bonus in TNA. Okay, so here's the real question: what match main events this pay-per-view?
That's a really, really good question. Since I'm going to be consistent, I don't think, because I think Ethan Page is going to win by DQ, that's not going to be the main event. You just can't end a show like that. So obviously, if the match ends up main eventing, then I'm clearly going to be wrong. But if that's the way it goes, I feel like TNA or the Jordynne Grace and Roxanne Perez main events. And
I think Jordynne and Roxanne should make it.
And then the show ends with Jordynne Grace winning the NXT Women's Championship.
With Jordynne Grace winning, wow.
With her holding up 2 titles. And I just hope it does. And again, you said it. WWE has nothing to gain, and this isn't a knock on NXT or on TNA. This isn't a knock on WWE, but when you really think about it, WWE doesn't need anybody. There was always chat like, "Oh, I can't believe they didn't get Okada. I can't believe they didn't get Osprey and Mercedes." WWE doesn't need anyone. They don't need a single human being. The fact that Roman Reigns is like not even there and is still doing pretty good business, like they don't need anybody. So with that said, like they don't need to do this with TNA, but I feel like the people in charge really, really understand uh, that they're trying to just have wrestling be fun. And Jordynne Grace winning the championship, that's going to make wrestling so much more fun.
Well, let me say this photo on Jordynne Grace's Twitter. She brought Shawn Michaels a chef's hat that said Chef Michaels. So maybe now Shawn's going to put the title on her.
Maybe.